We're talking now with Gaye Stewart, a former Thunder Bay native, Rookie of the Year for the National Hockey League in '43, winner of numerous trophies while he was in the NHL. Calder Trophy is Rookie of the Year. Lady Byng, if I remember correctly.
Not the Lady Byng.
Not the Lady Byng?
No, no.
I thought your style.
I was never that much of a sportsman.
I thought your style of hockey was gentle, stick handling and playing the game on the safe side. When you were the Rookie of the Year in '43, you were with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And do you remember who else was in the running for the?
Yes, quite a well-known player. I think his name was Rocket.
Rocket. One of the few awards he did not win in his
career.
Well,
he may have, but I think he broke his ankle, I think, 3/4 of the way through the season, in around that era. And I guess that killed his chances. So. But I think that I could blow my own horn and say that I think I had more goals than he had when that unfortunate accident happened to him. So maybe I might have stayed ahead of him and won it without.
Back in the '40s, did they have the ongoing press feuds between the coverage from Montreal and the coverage from Toronto?
Oh yes, yes. Of course, it was all written word then.
Yes.
Yeah, it was all written. But oh yes, we've had when numerous things happened. I remember Dick Irwin calling Toronto a bunch of butchers or something like that, and hackers and so forth. And he had his starting lineup. I think, if I remember correctly, he had a starting lineup. Come out on the ice carrying axes, ready to chop the opposition down, you know, stuff like that, which would go over big today.
Oh yeah.
You know, as a gimmick, but
now it's called marketing.
I think, yeah, be marketing. That's right.
You were part of one of the biggest trades in hockey in those days, the Flying Forts, which was, if I remember correctly, Bud Poyle, Gus Bodner, and yourself were. Included with Bob Goldham and Ernie Dickens, all traded to Chicago for Max Bentley.
Right.
How did you feel being part of that? I mean, that's sort of a lopsided trade. One junior pick and one star.
Well, you know, trades, they never start out with the original guys being traded that were involved in the first place. I mean, you discuss them back and forth, and the two players that you probably started out with might not even be in the final package, or one maybe, or so forth. But we were not in the package that was offered by Smythe originally. Didn't include us, but worked around that way, and so
as the trade grew, more and more people got involved.
You became part of it, and that was my first experience with a trade, which came at an unfortunate time because I had just rented an apartment in Toronto. I was sitting at the airport waiting for my wife and young baby to arrive from Fort William, and I heard it on the radio. Well, in deference to the club, Hap Day, who happened to have been the coach, had been trying to reach me. Well, in the apartment we didn't have a phone, and I didn't know anything was going on, so I wasn't in contact with the Gardens. We had practiced that morning. But,
no one had said anything then?
Nobody said anything at that time, so I guess the deal was finalized sometime in the afternoon. So I had to turn around and send Margaret back with the baby the next day, and on my way to Chicago.
There were a fair number of then Fort William and Port Arthur hockey players playing in the National Hockey League. And that includes yourself. What was the reason for that? There had to be something that Thunder Bay area supplied so many hockey players.
Well, the North itself, not only Thunder Bay, but Timmins, Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie to some degree, Kirkland Lake. I think it was just the climate, the atmosphere that you were in. We played on outdoor arenas, which there were a number of them, and if there wasn't an arena, you cleaned off a patch on a river. Then that, in my particular case, that's where I got started, on a patch of ice on the Neebing River, and you learned to skate and stick handle, basically to keep the puck, if you could get a hold of it, away from all the other guys that were on the same ice surface with you, because they varied in age. They were, if you wanted to go and play with, if you were 12 and you wanted to go and play, you could go and play with anybody. If you were 16, 22, it didn't matter. There was probably only one puck, so you had to go after it. And so I think that's where you really developed a lot of the agility that is in skating, and your stick handling. And of course, you went from there. Now, I don't think youngsters like today, they don't get that opportunity. They don't get a chance even to practice. It's tough to get an ice, onto an ice surface, because there are not the facilities. There are very, very few outdoor facilities, and whether they, as somebody said, you're not going to get a kid today who's going to clean the ice off to make himself a surface on a river or a pond anyway. Once a heavy snow comes, he's not inclined to go out and shovel it off. So if that's the case,
to go indoors and play.
Yeah, he'd rather go indoors and play. And of course, getting into an indoor arena to play is so. Therefore, you don't have he doesn't have the opportunity to really work on the skills. And I think that when they do get in a team, they get onto a minor team, and the minor team might be able to get an hour's ice time for a practice sometime during the week. And then as soon as they get into the practice, they get into technicalities, the finesse parts of the game, that you're asking some young guy who's skating on his ankles to go around pylons and jump over sticks when he's having trouble just getting one blade ahead of the other, and he should be just out there skating. And of course, I'm a great believer that public skating, boy, if you can go out in public, I did a lot of public skating. We all did. We skated with girls. And like my sister had the racing blades, the big long racing blades.
Speed skates?
Speed skates. And when you went public skating and you wanted to skate with her, boy, I'll tell you, you better be able to skate, because she was taking those long strides. So consequently, that made you take long strides with, with the hockey blade, with the ordinary hockey skates. And it gave you lots of balance, because you had to hold on to onto her, and you skated with girls. You had to hold half of them up anyway, and that helped you have your balance, because there were so many people on the rink that you were moving around and through people, and then you'd be playing tag too, which you weren't supposed to do. But I think all that contributed to your ability to be very agile on the skates. Skating is a big thing. That's the number one item. The best pro organization in pro sports is the Montreal Canadiens, bar none. I don't care whether it's the NFL, NBA, or whatever. They've had their winning percentages far greater than any other.
For a long, long time.
Yeah, and so what is the big thing with Canadians? They skate. They win more games by skating than any other teams. They can all skate, and when they turn the burners on, they can move. Now they're running in against, into the modern era of hockey now, where they're also not. They're looking at other things, like trying to get somebody that's 6'4", who can belt somebody and hope that he can skate. That's right. But those guys are far and few between. And that same size ice surface is filling up now with guys who are, over 6 foot, and they weigh 200 pounds. So there's less and less room to maneuver out there. And when you watch the Olympics or any of the international competition, you see their rinks over there. There was a game on this morning. Norway was playing who are they now? They're not the Soviets anymore, but
they've called the United team for this.
You lots of room to maneuver and go around it. Although it's not that many feet wider or longer, but it's still more room.
It does make a difference,
and it makes a difference. But I think the Canadians, they're looking at bigger guys too. But they still got guys that are 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot.
In the course of your career, you did something very, very few people have done, in that you played in the National Hockey League. You were a general manager in the American Hockey League with Buffalo.
Right.
And then you came back into the NHL as a referee.
Right.
Somewhat an unusual combination.
Touched all the bases. I found out more about hockey when I refereed for the 2 years than the 15 years of playing and coaching combined.
Did you find it difficult to go back into the National Hockey League as a referee?
Well, I was asked to come on the refereeing staff as an ex-player. I had a call from Frank Selke in Montreal, and they were looking for somebody an ex-player to become a referee.
They were
So
looking
I said,
specifically for an ex-player?
Pardon me?
They were looking specifically
Yes.
for an ex-player?
Mm-hmm. An ex-player to
Something you wouldn't
come
see
in.
today, probably.
Oh, you wouldn't see that today. No. They had an ex-player. King Clancy had refereed, and then of course he had left. But so they looked for an ex-player. So I decided to join them, and I was working for Molson's at the time, and so I said yes, and I left Molson's, and on the Friday, on Sunday or Monday, I was in St. Catharines, Ontario, at the Chicago Blackhawk training camp, with a striped jersey on, blowing the whistle at the team, in the practice sessions and on the pickup games.
So
And
the
then I
referees
worked.
trained with the team. The referees were actually working in the training camps of the pro teams. Then?
Mm-hmm. What's the only experience? That's all we. Where else were we going to get any experience or get a workout? There were only 6 referees at that time, and like 3 would work. If they had a full schedule on the weekends, on a Saturday night, there'd be 3 NHL games because there were only 6 teams, so that needed 3 referees. And we also worked the American Hockey League, and there were 6 teams down there, so there was 3 games down there. So that was it. And if the referee got hurt or sick or whatever, then the linesman took over.
So it was a
That's
full
as simple as
employment
that.
situation.
Yeah. But anyway, I worked a few games in the preseason, and then got my assignments. Carl Voss, who was the referee in chief, lived in Buffalo at the time, and I was living in Fort Erie, so I had very close contact with him. I said, "Where am I going to open up the season?" He said, "I thought I'd start you off in Toronto." Oh, my first game was in Toronto. I whistled 22 penalties, 22 minor penalties, no problems. And, when you're not mentioned, you know that you've done a good job. That's the mark of a good referee. If you can't remember who refereed the game when the game is over, then
Then you did it properly.
that's you've done a good game. That was the theory we worked on.
In the course of the number of years that you've been involved with hockey, you've seen most of the changes that have brought about the game that most people are familiar with today. Of those changes, the introduction of the red line, etc., what stands out as being the biggest change in hockey?
Well, from my own playing time, the red line, the introduction of the red line in 1944, I know it was when I was away in the service, that was probably the biggest thing that affected my own and a lot of other players.
How did it
playing.
change the game that you were accustomed to playing?
Well, it changed it from a game where we, as an offense, you worked the puck up the ice by passing it back and forth, and then had a try on the net, or maybe not a try on the net, but once you lost the puck, you backed off, and the other team then, the puck usually was given to the centerman, and he came up with the 2 wingmen, and they had to try at your end. With the introduction of the red line, now they could fire the puck up to the red line, so that's kind of opened it up. And sort of, now you were asked, once you lost the puck in your end, they realized the best thing would be to go after the guy who had the puck. So now you've got the forechecking. So that started the forechecking, strong forechecking. And the other thing was designed to open the play up a bit more, but then somebody, as in all cases, there's somebody puts in there something to counteract that. And so it's gone on. But basically the game has stayed the same until, I would say, in the early 60s, they got the idea now they could fire the puck in, not carried in anymore. Let's shoot it in. And it became a big scramble, and now they realize that you're going to shoot the puck in, and if you're going to regain control of the puck, you got to hit somebody and knock them off the puck and try and get it. So now you got, well, we better get a bigger guy to do this. So the game evolved where now they're all looking for anybody that's over 6 foot. But you better have some other skills. If you're less than 6 foot, you better have some other skills to go along with whatever you have, because you won't make it.
No. Given your past record, winning a Calder, Smythe trophies, we're on 2 Stanley Cup winners, who in your era was the best hockey player?
I'll get off the hook on that one very easily. If I was going to play one game for all the marbles, I got to have the Rocket. If I'm going into a 7-game series, I'll have Mr. Howe. That's the 2. And for a 1 game in the nets, I would take Turk Broda. And for a 7-game series, I would take by the name of Frankie Brimsek. Now that's going back a long way.
The Iceman, Boston Bruins.
Yeah. And I played against and with some pretty good goaltenders. I played against Brimsek and with Brimsek and Durnan and Sawchuk and Broda and them all. But I think that under pressure, that probably Broda would come up with more stops in 1 game. But then he might let you down in the next game.
Not Tiny
But,
Thompson?
well, Tiny was all finished. I never did see him
done.
play or play against him. You can only go with the guys that you've seen or had something to do with. So that would be my answer to that.
And to wrap up, where do you think hockey is going, other than being a multi-marketed part of our society now? Is it continuing to improve in your estimation?
Well, the skills. Now, we talk about skating. I don't think the game is any faster, really, overall. You know, it's not, the guys don't move any quicker. I think they're stronger. Naturally, they're stronger. They're bigger. And they can shoot the puck. We never had any slap shots. We just wristed it. Well, we might have been able to get the same kind of speed out of the puck, but only for about maybe 10 feet. But with those boomers they let go, I mean, that puck is moving, 50 feet down the line. It's still going pretty good. And I think that has changed a lot of the game. And just the strategy has become a major factor, too. They're jamming up in front of them. Get the biggest guy you can find. To get him in front so he can push somebody out of the way, or blank the goaltender out so the goaltender can't see what's going on. So there's all these different strategies that even when I was coaching, I can recall, I never thought about putting the biggest guy to get him around the net. What I wanted was the goal scorer. I wanted him at the net, to put the puck in the net, not some big guy that just to screen the goaltender out. But then again, I didn't have anybody on the points firing bullets either. So, it's just a little different. But I think hockey, and if they can resolve their television market and go for, some kind of a contract, they goofed it up so far by they went with the USA Network when they were already with ESPN. Yep. And I saw a lot of games with ESPN, and I thought they were doing. They covered it very well. The commentators were good. And the NHL, in its wisdom, dropped it.
Good. One last question, because we're asking everybody this, and we'll need a quick answer. Who's the best Thunder Bay hockey player that you know of, that you've seen, that you played
outside
with?
of myself?
Everyone else has said you.
Oh, I think that it would probably be Edgar LePrand.
Edgar LePrand.
Yeah, I would think
choice.
so. Yeah, Edgar had all the skills. Fortunately, he wasn't. Had he been bigger, but it didn't. In our type of game at that time, he was good. So.
That's fair.